Welcome everybody. We're now, I think this is what, week number 5 of Conchas y Café. If you haven't yet, you can always check out the past episodes up on YouTube and whatnot. And of course, Google Classroom is where all the handouts live. But this week, we're going to start working on, the overall theme of our voice, our place, and starting to go into a little bit more about our place and how we're going to talk about place in poetry. Welcome, everybody. So to start us off, just kind of want to do, I guess, a quick little check-in to see how everybody's doing. Have you guys been, enjoying the writing prompts? Anybody have any questions about the writing prompts or the past lessons so far? No, nadie?
I have a lot of work to do.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to say that they've been really fruitful. I've come up with some poems I really like out of them. So thank you. They've been really fruitful.
Good, good. Judith?
Yes, I want to share that for all my friends that speak English, I feel like I'm ready and I'm writing something in English. So that will be my first time. So for all of you that heard my poems and don't understand that much, now it's going to be one in English. And I'm very, very proud. I hope then you like it. And also that I write something about this prompt, but it sounds like it's something from the last exercise. So it's like I stay longer in one place, but eventually I'll move on. And I have points for every session. It's just that I haven't submitted, but I have to learn how to do that.
Okay.
Of course. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And actually on that, if anybody wants to, I suggest looking up Google Classroom or Google Meet tutorials on YouTube. There's a lot out there, and you're able to figure out, how to upload and even create your homework assignments on Google Classroom. Yeah, but aside from that, I mean, no se sienta mal, Judith, si no ha entregado algo hasta
Okay.
Cada quien trabaja a su paso. So,
Okay.
yeah. And as always, feel free to write in whatever language you feel most comfortable in. So even if that's made up words, which, that is a thing. So I guess if nobody has any questions, we'll just go ahead and get into today's quote. So I'm gonna switch over to my screen here. If you can't see the whole thing, let me know, but here we go. So today's lesson is starting off here with this quote by Rigoberta Menchú Tum. Si no conocen a Rigoberta Menchú Tum, ella es un activista quiché de Guatemala, premiada con el Premio Nobel en el año 1992, y es fundadora del WINAC, que es el primer partido político indígena de Guatemala. Es feminista y activista. Y ella escribió: soy como una gota de agua sobre una roca. Después de gotear, gotear, gotear en el mismo lugar, comienzo a dejar una marca y dejo mi marca en el corazón de muchas personas. And in English here, Rigoberta Menchú Tum is the 1992 Nobel Prize winner, Peace Prize winner specifically. She's a Quiché feminist and activist from Guatemala and is also the founder of WINAC, which is Guatemala's first indigenous political party. And she wrote, I am like a drop of water on a rock. After drip, drip, dripping in the same place, I begin to leave a mark, and I leave my mark in many people's hearts. So, what do you guys think? What does that quote say to you? How does it relate to you? And I'll copy and paste it in the chat for everyone to reference.
Maybe words are like water, or it stays like water does, and then sometimes it dries up, or you a sponge. You sponge it up.
That's an interesting way to look at it. So we take in the words, is what
Take
you're
in the
saying,
words.
right? And they leave an impact on us. Okay. I see someone wrote in the chat, the power of persistence. Judith?
Yes. To me, it's also like constancy and resilience. And that sometimes your water and encounter rocks on your way. So again, you have to be persistent to leave a mark behind, kind of. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, definitely I think persistence is a part of it, right? Si uno persiste, uno siempre va a lograr sus metas. Señora Maggie?
Eso es lo que iba a decir yo, Luis. Es lo que iba a decir, como ella está muy perseverante y luchando por los derechos y constantemente hasta que por fin la escucharon, ¿verdad? Porque fue cuando supimos más acerca de todo lo que ella estaba luchando por. Yo entiendo que es como perseverancia.
Sí, la perseverancia efectivamente es algo muy importante. Mary?
Well, I have an idea why she says that. She was one of the activists who was denunciating, the horrible crimes committed during the Guatemala Civil War. That also is very related to the Cold War. It was a proxy war, similar to the one that there was in Vietnam, but with way less press, right? And yeah, she was actually showing to the rest of the world that there were some things that they were ignoring. So yeah, she actually made a lot of activism from Mexico and Spain and also the United States. So I understand why she's saying that.
Yeah, I think it's important to know, right? Like Rigoberta Menchú was an activist, and a very strong feminist and person that advocated for the rights of the indigenous people of Guatemala in general, or Guatemala specifically, but all people, especially indigenous people across the world. And so what she is saying in her quote is very important for us. Ms. Luz? Sorry, you're still on mute. There you go.
I met Rigoberta in the 80s. I was participating with my parents, my parents are Guatemalan, so we joined an activist group called the Guatemala Information Center. And so we were trying to raise awareness of what was going on in Guatemala. And so one of the events, she was invited. And right away when I read this, I just recall that she did leave a place in my heart. She has a very warm and caring spirit, and also just a tremendous amount of energy and love for her cause. So I think when she wrote this, she realized that she was moving people, or conmoviendo. I can't even think of what the word is in English, but she has that ability. So I think her tenaciousness in trying to make a difference, I think she found that wasn't the aim to, gear towards people's heart. I think it worked for her.
Yeah, I think that, Rigoberta Menchú definitely found her purpose in life. And she used her work, her life's work, as a a way to, I don't know, I mean, it definitely made a difference on a large group of people's lives. And, you know, she gave voice to people that historically hadn't had a voice in Guatemala. And, you know, her work continues now to basically spread that to the rest of the world. So it is a very important thing that she's done. And her voice and her words, and, you know, they have left a mark in many people's hearts, like the quote says. Abraham?
Well, to me, it really spoke. Can you hear me? Sorry. Okay. To me, it spoke like DSTL Arts, how it has changed the community and also touched so many people. And it's because it's continuous. You always try to make it. And is that kind of like not quitting situation? Like right now, we're doing this online, and that's kind of the perseverance of dropping. So that's what I got out of it.
Thank you for tying in DSTL Arts with that. It's like a shout out. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely something I think to be said about that. Right? Jeremy?
One of the things I noticed that I kind of like about the poem is that she compares herself to a drop of water.
Sorry, Jeremy, not to cut you off, but there's a lot of static. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
One of the things I like about this is that her comparison she's comparing herself to a drop of water on a rock. And a drop of water is like very small, it's very soft, it can easily be broken apart. But she's hitting a rock, which is like stone, and she's comparing it to people's hearts. So even though people are stubborn, they can be, you know, dumb, and they're trying to be hard, her softness and that, like everyone else is saying, that persistency is what's leaving her mark in their hearts, like as stubborn and hard as they might want to be. But yeah, and it was like a little thing that hit me, kind of something that she's trying to say about their hearts being compared to stone.
That's a good observation. You know, yeah, like Karen is saying in the chat, yeah, the symbols are very deep. And kind of like what Judith was saying, you know, she may be revisiting some of the same topics that we've been talking about in the last few weeks through her poems, but, you know, some of these things, they need to be repeated over and over again. And, you know, it's okay if we sound like we're repeating ourselves. Repetition is actually, I think, one of the strongest tools that we have as poets, but, you know, even as people. You know, the more we repeat something, the more we learn it. You know, the more we repeat a phrase, the more it becomes ingrained in our minds. And the more we repeat a certain action of goodwill towards others, hopefully, you know, that will make a difference in other people's lives. I think that's kind of where she's getting at too. Aunque no todos piensen de esa manera, sí es importante que sigamos actuando de manera que es, pues, significativo, ¿verdad? Que tenga algún tipo de efecto, aunque sea a lo largo, pero y no en lo inmediato. I think that is a really good thing for us to keep in mind. Any other comments or last ideas about our quote? No? All right. Well, you know, to sort of recap a little bit on the things that we've talked about up to this point, right? We started off our first session in talking about anaphora. An anaphora is when you repeat at the beginning of a line or at the beginning of a stanza a phrase or a few, you know, a word or a phrase, right? And, you know, that repetition creates kind of a rhythm. Then we also talked a little bit about epistrophe, which is the opposite of anaphora, although that wasn't really the lesson. The lesson that we talked about in the second week was, let's see, feel free to jump in if I don't remember correctly. But we had talked about, you know, repetition in a very similar way. And yeah, anaphora was the first week, Abraham. But you know, we've been talking a lot about how repetition works, right? Oh yeah, apophysis. Thank you. Apophysis was the second week. So when you talk about something when it's not there, and then persona. Yeah. Thanks, Abraham. Appreciate the help in the chat. You know, and So repetition has been one of those things that has come up a few times. And, you know, I actually ended up learning a new word over the weekend that I felt was really important for us to explore, because it's one of the tools that we actually use a lot without even realizing we use it a lot. You might have seen it in the handout when I posted it to Google Classroom, but the way you pronounce it is Epizuexis. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to our handout now so you can all see what it is. Epizuexis, it's kind of a funny word, if you ask me. It's not something that I honestly would have ever even thought existed, but here we go. And I don't think it's that much of a I don't know, surprise, I guess, that we're going to be talking about music today in particular. But Epizuexis is this right here. Epizuexis is a literary or rhetorical device that appeals to or invokes the reader's or listener's emotions through the repetition of words in quick succession. En español no pude encontrar alguna traducción exacta a la palabra del día, pero Epizuexis en español es básicamente reduplicación o geminación. Y hay dos cosas, o una cosa más o menos que distingue a reduplicación y geminación. Pero, en general, la definición de la palabra de esta semana es una figura retórica que solicita o invoca las emociones del lector o audiencia por medio de la repetición sucesiva de palabras. Reduplicación, en particular, es cuando se repite la palabra solo 2 veces. A cambio, geminación es la repetición de la misma palabra 3 o más veces. Así que, como ven, reduplicación y geminación es básicamente lo mismo que el Epizuexis en inglés. But yes, this is also important. It appeals to or invokes the reader's or listener's emotions through the repetition of words in quick succession. So it's like a nice big SAT word, right? Something you probably would never hear outside of a literary conversation. But Epizuexis is that. It's the repetition of words, or a word, in quick succession. So you might be thinking, well, how does that get used? Well, normally that's something that you might use, when you're trying to deliver a speech in a very passionate way, but it's most commonly found in music. Abraham, I saw your hand. Go ahead.
Do you know where the word comes from? What language?
The etymology of the word, when I learned it, it originates from Old Greek, but I can't tell you the exact root words. But any other questions? Anything that needs clarification about Epizuexis? All right. So here's why I had to actually download Google Chrome to be able to share today's lesson. So we're actually going to hear an example of Epizuexis in action. So give me a quick second here to queue up the video for us. But today, we're going to listen to a song by the group named Porter, Porter en español. Y Porter es un conjunto musical de México. Son muy reconocidos especialmente por su estilo de música que tocan. Es como tipo indie rock, experimental. And you'll kind of get a sense of why these folks are considered an experimental rock group, especially for Mexico, where this type of music isn't very popular. Although this band in particular is pretty popular. So here we have Porter, and the name of the song is La China. Hopefully you guys can hear it all right. All right. So, what do you guys think of the song? Any initial reactions to hearing the song?
Go Guardian Teacher provides a digital window into student online activity, so teachers can see.
Sorry about that. So, I see Paola wrote, I love Porter. Judith?
Sí, casi no puedo escuchar bien la letra, pero ya los he escuchado, a mi hermano les gusta mucho, pero me trajo mucha emoción, como tranquilidad, pero al mismo melancolía, porque cuando empezó el video, luego pensé en el Popocatépetl, que es en México, ¿no? Es cerca de mi pueblo. Entonces, está en las montañas donde está frío, pero todavía no hay nieve, y ya cuando subes, está todo eso. Entonces, es una canción que me hubiera gustado, la voy a volver a escuchar ya sola para entender bien la letra, pero se me hace... Es poética, obviamente, pero también se me hace raro lo de el tema, la China, porque a mí me decían la China, pero por obvias razones. Y la muchacha está bien lacia, pero entonces jugó un poco con mi imaginación, la verdad. Eso fue lo que me pasó.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love this song. Para mí esta canción es una de esas canciones que yo puedo poner en repeat y siempre me va a dar la misma emoción. Y lo siento que no pudo entender muy bien la letra, y señora Maggie también que no lo pudo escuchar. But because I know that, you know, especially using the tenor voice that they use, David Velasco, the singer and songwriter of this, you know, it can be kind of hard to understand his lyrics. So for that reason, I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to read the lyrics together. So, but also, just so you know, I will be posting the video to our Google Classroom again. But it is called La China. Y viene del álbum que se llama Moctezuma. Y como dije aquí, la letra está escrita por David Velasco. So if anybody would like to actually read the lyrics for those that might not be able to see the screen, do I have any volunteers? Go ahead and just start, because I can't see you right now. Does anybody want to read the lyrics? Judith? Okay.
¿En español?
Sí, por favor.
Ok. Dicen que se fue a buscar en el ombligo de la luna, que 13 veces 20 iba a durar. Que cuando vean el ave en el nopal, que griten todos, ya llegamos a la tierra de Aztlán. Que griten todos, ya llegamos a la tierra de Aztlán. Solo esperen verse en el lugar, abrazar el sueño y regresar. Mexi, mexicana, mexicana. Me enseñó a esperar. Desprendernos de noche. Meshi, mexicana. Meshi, mexicana. Y cada noche volando estará. Hablar contigo sin emitir palabras, sin emitir palabra. Meshi, mexicana. Meshi, mexicana. Meshi, mexicana. Seres astrales unidos uno al otro, solo lo vio el cielo y los planetas, y cada noche tú me cantabas tus bellas melodías, etc.
Gracias, Judith. All right. And do I have a volunteer to read it for us in English? My translation in English? I'm gonna save my voice here a little bit. No one? Or maybe I have to pick somebody.
I'll go.
All right, thank you, Karen. What's up on the screen now?
It said they went to search in the belly button of the moon, that it would last 13 by 20. And when they see the bird on the cactus, that all will shout, "We've arrived to the land of Atlan." That all will shout, "We've arrived to the land of Atlan." They only hope to see themselves in that place, embrace the dream and return. Meshi, Meshi, Meshihana. Meshi, Meshi, Meshihana. It taught me to be patient, letting ourselves go at night. Meshi, Meshi, Meshihana. Meshi, Meshi, Meshihana. And every night, flying, they will be speaking to you without transmitting words. Without transmitting words. Without transmitting words. Meshi, Meshi, Meshihana. Meshi, Meshi, Meshihana. Meshi, Meshi, Meshihana. Meshi, Meshi, Meshihana. Astral beings linked with one another. Only the sky could see it. And the planets. And every night you sang to me. Your beautiful melodies. Your beautiful melodies. Ah, 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 ah.
Yeah. Thank you, Karen. So now that you see the lyrics, or you got a chance to hear the lyrics, and you got a chance to hear the song, right? And you know the definition of Epizuexis and being the repetition of words that is meant to elicit or invoke a person's emotions. What do you guys think of the song?
Well, to me, it kind of remind me of Zoe, the other band, because the song is really kind of a trance and ethereal kind of way, like dreamy, and the pacing of it is kind of slow and just like kind of relaxing in a sense too.
Mm-hmm.
And well, the Mexican work, I it felt more like a chant than I don't know. That's what I felt about it.
Yeah. Carlos?
Hi, yes, sorry, it's because I was driving earlier, so I wanted to say something, but I'm here now. Yeah, no, this song, I know this song. I heard it live, and the cool thing about that album specifically is kind of like I guess the band kind of went like on a retreat, kind of like to connect with the roots, kind of like what a lot of people try to do. Yes, so it's very it has a lot of I guess Mexicaness, and but yeah. Anyways, according I was like, this is not about the band, but specifically about the song. Yeah, the video, it's really cool because it just kind of shows that like that it's strong indigenous person. And if you think about it, like it's kind of good to see that portrayed because a lot of times when you see like indigenous people on films or whatever, it's like some like poor community or some lady tejiendo or something. And it was just really cool to think of that, right here we were once like a strong culture, and we had like cities and everything, technology. They after the Europeans kind of like painted us as like some kind of savages that were needed help. But this song, it's really cool. Yeah, I feel like the repetition kind of brings I guess goes alongside with like the I guess it works because it's a song. However, just kind of like así como we just read it. I don't know. It kind of changes a lot. So I guess that will be the thing, because sometimes you do start writing in a type of kind of like a song in your head, and you write it down, and in your head there's like a rhythm, but I don't know. I guess that's a challenge. And I don't know if you guys have any tips or anything on how to translate or how to pass that type of like rhythm or something, so whoever's reading it can also kind of get the same feeling. I don't know if I explain myself. I'm
No.
sorry, I was just excited about the song.
And I'm glad that you're excited about the song, and I see that Paola is as well. And it sounds like those that connected to the song, you kind of are getting it. Nettie in the chat posted that it sounds like an ancient chant, that he likes it. And yeah, and to answer Tina's question about if it is like a chant, yes, ultimately what Epizuexis is a repetition that becomes almost like a chant, right? So in the song, to repeat meshi, 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 meshi kana, that is a form of Epizuexis, and that is almost like a chant in that it really does begin to sort of invoke a sense of, at least for me, the song, it's one of those songs that actually almost makes me cry every time that I hear it, because it connects with me in a way that I really can't even explain, other than culturally. For me, this song is really, really important, and it tells me the story of my ancestors. And there's a lot of other people.
Yo lo que sentí, Luis,
Monday.
perdón, es lo que sentí un poco de como el patriotismo, esa nostalgia de la casa, de tus raíces. Es el sentimiento que me dio al mirar el video y después leer las letras. Es lo que sentí, el poder de lo que traemos muy, muy dentro de nuestra cultura. Es lo que sentí. Gracias.
Sí, sí, y pues es como un tipo de nacionalismo, pero no es solo eso, sino también, para mí, es como el reconocimiento de que somos más que lo que somos en este mismo momento. Somos parte de una cultura que ha existido desde siempre. Judith kind of made an observation about the title of the song, La China, right? La China is Spanish for China, which you wouldn't think China itself has any kind of connection to being Mexican, but it totally does, because if we kind of follow the theory of the way that the indigenous people of the Americas came to the Americas, it was from the region that is now currently China, right? And even before then, our ancestors came from Africa. And so, right, Pangea, as Karen is writing in the chat, but this is after Pangea, obviously after the continental plates have shifted and now are the current continents. But, our ancestors are very, very closely related, especially if you're of indigenous descent. They're very closely related to the people of Asia. And, our travel from the Bering Strait, from crossing over through Siberia into modern day Alaska, and then coming down through modern day Canada, modern day United States, and into the rest of the continent, Mexico, Central America, South America, we are part of this legacy of cultures that have basically flourished, on their own. So there's definitely a lot of that's happening in the song. And at least for me, as a person that identifies as Mexican, it is a very, not necessarily nationalistic song, but it's a song that is about the pride of my people, the people that I identify with. And to say Meshi, Mexica, Mexicana, it's invoking that ancient culture that I have a connection with. And so for me, on an emotional level, I'm able to relate.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Carlos.
Oh, sorry. So this song, when the whole Trump thing happened and, como que todos estaban aguitados, I remember, I think it was a little bit before that happened that they released the video for this song. And I was watching it, and it did give me like a sense of like empowerment, like como que no te agüites, like you're like, you come from a culture that like, has endured and it's like strong, and it did kind of give that kind of I guess strength, I guess. Now that you guys are mentioning about like the chants and all that, It kind of does bring a little something, I guess, emotional.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had an interesting experience actually yesterday in preparing for the lesson, and watching the video and then looking at the comments below. And if you go to YouTube and you watch this video on YouTube, you'll see a lot of people saying, I'm not Mexican, but I really identify. And there's people that are from other countries like Guatemala and Colombia, saying in the comments how that song makes them actually almost shed a tear as well. So they have essentially the same emotional reaction that I tend to get in hearing the song. Karen asked in the chat, what does meshi mean? So let's actually switch over back to the lyrics so we can see what the lyrics actually say. And I learned something new yesterday that I would love to share. So here in Spanish, right? Dicen que se fue a buscar en el ombligo de la luna, que 13 veces 20 iba a durar, que cuando vean el ave en el nopal, que griten todos, ya llegamos a la tierra de Aztlán. Que griten todos, ya llegamos a la tierra de Aztlán. Solo esperan verse en el lugar, abrazar el sueño y regresar. Meshi, 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 mexicana, meshi, meshi, mexicana. So what I learned yesterday was that, the original name for the people known today as the Aztecs, they're actually the Mexica. And they're specifically the Mexica Tenochtitlan. And that's the place, that's the name of the area that was considered the heart of the Aztec Empire. But I learned yesterday that the etymology of the word Mexico, it's actually broken down into 3 phonemes. Phonemes are parts of a word or roots of a word that mean particular things. Metzli in the Mexica mythology is the name of the goddess of the moon. Itztacl is the center or the belly button. And ko is the indication of a place. So Mexico is actually the name of our nation. Mexico is actually Mexico, and Mexico means the belly button of the moon, or ombligo de la luna. At least that's one interpretation. That there's other arguments out there that say otherwise, but the first line of the song, it said they went to search in the belly button of the moon. They're actually, saying that the individual, the character in the story, or the people in the story, they went to go search for home, for their ultimate home, which is in the belly button of the moon, which I personally thought was really cool. And to answer Karen's question of what meshi means, meshi, if we were to follow that logic of the place name of Mexico, Mexica, would mean the person that is from the belly button of the moon. So it doesn't exactly explain, what Mexica or Mexico means necessarily, but it's kind of at least a way for me to interpret the lyrics to say that we are people that are from the belly button of the moon, or that we belong to the belly button of the moon. So it's on a metaphorical level, it's a really cool way of describing who we are. And so to repeat meshi, 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 mexicana, the people that are of the belly button of the moon, it's I think a very beautiful message and a very empowering one as well. Judith?
Quisiera compartir una teoría que aprendí en una clase con la Universidad de Guadalajara, y el señor se especializaba en teísmo y ¿cómo se dice? Cristianismo y catolicismo y eso. Y dijo que nosotros somos mexicas y debemos ser orgullosos de serlo porque no somos mexicanos, somos mexicas. Y mi niña cuando le preguntan, ¿de dónde eres? Yo soy mexica, porque ella estaba tomando la clase conmigo. El maestro nos explicó que una manera en que los españoles nos querían cristianizar o cristianizaron a los indígenas, sabían que era someter al indio por medio de su familia, de su mujer y de sus hijos. Entonces los domingos cuando se reunían y los niños se sentaban en círculo, los padres les preguntaban, ¿y tú qué eres? Y ellos decían, mexicas. Y el padre les pegaba en las manos y les decía, mexica no, mexica no. Entonces de ahí surgió, supuestamente es una teoría, la idea de que nos hicieron negar nuestras raíces, nuestra cultura y nuestro indigenista, o sea, siendo indígenas, bueno, perdón, me emocioné. Entonces, eso es lo que decían, que nos quitaron el ser mexicano, querían que fuéramos cristianos nada más, católicos, creyentes y todo eso. Entonces, otra vez decían, mexicano, no. No decir mexicano, sino que somos mexicas, hombres y mujeres mexicas. No hay mexicanas, no hay mexicanos. Gracias.
Somos mexica, exacto. Yeah, ahorita como Paola en el chat digo, wow, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? If you think about it, if we're told to deny our heritage, you know, by saying mexicano, as in, you know, our being Mexicano being like a negative thing, like a renouncing of being Mexica, that's pretty powerful. You know, and that shows you, right, the strength of words, right? Como la señora Maggie dice en el chat, que los españoles no podían pronunciar mexica, entonces ellos decían México o mexicanos, right? You know, that repetition of that word, just like how Rigoberta Menchú in our quote of the day today says, you know, that little drip of water, that constant mispronunciation became the name of a nation. It became a way of saying what you are. So it broke down the bedrock of our civilization as Mexica, right? But the opposite is also possible, que no? The more we work at it, the more that we learn, and the more that we end up actually pronouncing, kind of like a chant, right? Mexican, ¿verdad? Somos Mexica, Mexica. Drop the no and just say Mexica. You know, the more we'll come to really understand who we are as a people. The more we'll come to understand that we actually have a history that's way, way longer than, you know, colonialism. That's way longer than even just being of Anahuac, which is the name for this continent to our indigenous people. We're actually, just like the song title says, we're part of La China, right? We're actually also Asian too, what is modern day Asia. And we're also African, right? We can say very clearly, we can show pretty clearly, I would say, through genetics that we are one and the same. And I think that does speak a lot to the fact that we're at a point in time in history where we're recognizing it now, right? We're at least trying through our protests and through, you know, the changes in culture that are happening, we're trying to really say, no, we are all equal. And, you know, we can change our language to reflect that. So, you know, Epizuexis as a tool for us to use the repetition of words and phrases, you know, that's something that we do without even really realizing that we do it. It's obviously easier to do it as a song. Y como Carlos dice, quizás sí cuando estamos escribiendo nuestra poesía, estamos escribiendo como tipo música primero. Pero eso no quiere decir que la música y la poesía son cosas distintas. No, son igual. You may be approaching writing your poems as a songwriter might approach writing a song without really realizing it, because your repetition of phrases, your repetition of a single word, it's a type of chant. And that chant is what will really get people to sort of connect with you. And that's one of the things about being bilingual that I personally like, in that, you know, I can sometimes write in English and I can sometimes write in Spanish. And even if a person doesn't understand what I wrote in Spanish, or si uno no entiende claramente lo que yo digo en inglés, ojalá la emoción en que yo declamo mi poesía, you know, that way in which I perform a poem, hopefully that's what's going to actually get to a person. And I can only amp it up more if I'm chanting or if I'm repeating a phrase. Some of you have been in some of my poetry readings where I actually do like an interactive portion, and I ask the audience to repeat a phrase that I say, or to repeat a word that I say. And a lot of times those are the poems that really connect the most with people. So as a tool, use Epizuexis. Be aware that that's what it's called. Use repetition to really drive home a point, because it's going to be one of the best tools that you have. Does anybody have any questions or other comments about the song, or Karen?
Yeah, going on what you said, yeah, it was really cool to me that even though obviously I don't understand like any of the words, but I think just from the images and the sound, I definitely got a sense from it that it was this longing for another place, and this kind of sense of, and almost kind of connecting to it in some kind of metaphysical way. So even though I couldn't understand any kind of words, I was, at least from like the sound of it and the images with it, I was able to get that much. So I just thought that was cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was just gonna say that that I really oh, sorry, is this sorry. That the song was really powerful. And I really, it made me tear up too. Like there's just a lot of emotion in it, and it's like, yeah, you don't necessarily even have to like understand the words. It is about like the melody and the music, and like, you know, that repetition in it. And yeah, so I just wanted to say, like, I really enjoyed the video, and also this lesson about, like, because it kind of gave like this little bit of history about Mexico, and, you know, and the more indigenous, like the real history, and not like the you know, the ones that we learn.
Well, thank you, Caro. I'm glad that you liked it. And, you know, I think that sort of proves the point, right? You know, Caro maybe, you know, didn't understand all of it. Karen didn't understand the words, you know, but I think that the repetition of the word meshi, 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 mexicana, you know, to get that sort of chant happening, it shows you the importance of it, right? And there's a very strong value in that. And yeah, I just honestly can't say how much I love this song, and the fact that it really does get me in an emotional way. And if you're interested in listening to more of Porter, I very much recommend, just like Paola recommended, you know, that whole album is amazing. And like Carlos said, that album actually came out just before our current president was elected. And I feel like that wasn't an accident. You know, there was something definitely about that particular time period where it became very important to represent indigeneity in all media. And it's all of the music videos from that particular album, they all have that same sort of message, and they all the songs themselves too have that same type of message. It was an album that was created and inspired by the reconnecting with our indigenous roots. And so, you know, those sort of ancient practices, I think, are still very much the things that we do to this day. You know, poetry is music, and music is poetry. The repetition is going to be always universal, and an amazing tool for you to use as poets. Ms. Luz, did you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I wanted just to say that I've experimented a little bit with chanting. Had the opportunity to visit a Tibetan temple, and was just amazed by the force of the connection to the sound of, without knowing the meaning at all, but just the energy that a chant can create. So I think that right now, given the opportunity to try to create one, I'm thrilled.
I'm glad, because guess what your writing prompt is for this week?
I figured that.
All right. So real quick, before we go back to this conversation, and I'll let the rest of you share if you have anything to share, but I do want to show you the writing prompt. So for this week, as you can see, you have on the handout the lyrics for La China. And the rest of the song, it just basically talks about the spiritual nature of going in search of a place to call home, to the place that actually we belong to. And then, it goes on to talk about astral beings and how, that's a way for us to sort of connect in a spiritual level. But included here is also the definition for Epizuexis, and en español, reduplicación y geminación. Y aquí tienen su tema de escritura para la semana. Esta semana les estoy poniendo que invoquen la emoción de nuestros tiempos y transmítelo a su audiencia usando geminación. In English, invoke the emotion of our times and transmit it to your audience using Epizuexis. So remember, Epizuexis is that repetition, that successive repetition of a word. It could be a phrase, as long as it's something short. En el caso de geminación, en vez de reduplicación, la razón por cual yo usé geminación y no reduplicación es que geminación es cuando se repite 3 veces o más. Y así es como se va a transformar en un tipo de canto. So, just to sort of reiterate what I'm saying, Epizuexis is the tool that you're going to be using today or this week for your writing prompt. And the reason why it's Epizuexis and not just simple repetition is because Epizuexis is really about invoking emotion. And so find a word or find a phrase, if it's short, that really represents whatever it is that we're experiencing now, through your lens, obviously. It can be a chant, it can be a call, it can be whatever it is that you feel works best for your poem. Pero usen geminación para verdaderamente expresar la emoción que se siente hoy en día. Nuestros tiempos quizás sean buenos, quizás sean malos. Eso ya depende de cada quien, ¿verdad? Y su interpretación de lo que estamos viviendo. Pero intenten sacar las emociones del tiempo. That's I think, going to be the main challenge for you, is to really try to define what it is that we're experiencing on an emotional level and turn that into your poem. Does anybody have any questions or any other comments about the poem or the song, I should say, or the writing prompt for this week?
Luis, podemos escribir también si nos inspiró algo, como puede ser de algo pasado, algo antiguo.
Sí, cómo no.
No precisamente de estos tiempos.
Sí, siente que puede encontrar esa inspiración en los tiempos antiguos, ¿cómo no? Porque al último la realidad...
Sí, se me viene una idea.
¿Mande?
Dime.
O iba a decir que la realidad es que los tiempos antiguos nos van a influenciar, ¿verdad? Vamos a sentir esa influencia de los tiempos antiguos estando aquí en este tiempo que estamos viviendo.
Ok, gracias.
De nada. Yeah, anyone else? Any other questions? Yeah, and I mean, if you are drawing inspiration from ancient times, from our ancestors, obviously that's gonna be reflection of our times now, because we don't necessarily live in a vacuum. We're always influenced by the things that have come before. Just like that little drip, drip, drip that Rigoberta Menchú was talking about, it's worn down on us. So we're reacting to it. It might be a good thing, it might be a bad thing, but here we are now.
Luis?
Monday.
Yeah, I was driving when you guys were reading the quote. So, but I wanted to mention something about that quote. It reminded me of there's this. I know it's like the opposite, but I guess just so we can like think of like the power of that, like the power of a drop. So they use it as they also use that as a technique for torture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they tie someone up and then there's like a leak, así una gotera cayendo, and you probably think like it's just a drop of water, but I guess after a long time, I have never tried it, and then after a long time, it starts to mess with people's heads. So it kind of like, it's crazy how like that thing just kind of like drills, just a drop of water. A drop of water just drills. It could drill like very strong, like mentally and physically, I guess.
Yeah, it's the famous water torture. I think it's called normally the Chinese water torture or something like that. It is, and I'm glad you never experienced it. Just putting that out there. But yeah, it does speak to the power that a simple drop of water can have. Right? It can break us down mentally. It can break down rock. The reason why the rivers take the path that they do is because that's the way that the water has worn down their path. And rivers left naturally to flow will change direction because of the way that they break down their banks. So rivers over long periods of time will shift, and that's kind of, I think, where we're at now, culturally, as a society. We've been experiencing a lot of things as a community. Some of them good, some of them bad. I mean, this year marks 100 years since women were given the right to vote in the United States. But the reality is that that's really only white women that were given the right to vote, because women of color still had to wait until 1965, I think, right, for the Voting Rights Act to be able to have proper access to voting. And even then, we're still here talking about the way that voting is being hampered, right, by the administration. So, things change over time. They change, and it's about constantly chipping away at it. That little drip does make a difference. Y aunque nos estemos, repitiendo, we might still be saying the same things 100 years from now. But you know what? Hopefully, 100 years from now, there has been progress made, and these same messages are still just about us being human, right? Reminding us that we're human and that we're actually connected to one another. So, I hope you find inspiration in that, and I hope that you are able to channel this emotion into your poetry, because it's going to live on. If it's published, if it's shared, it's going to live on. So, Judith, hablando de la China. See, it all ties together. Totally all ties together. So, yeah, if anybody has any final questions, no, we'll leave it at that. Of course, you can always, comment on the Google Classroom. Share your Post-it note drawings like Abraham. Do whatever you choose. That's our forum for us to continue these conversations. No se les olviden entregar sus poesías, y every week we'll continue on. Oh, and one last thing, I believe it's another 3 weeks before we have our next feedback session. So 3 weeks from today, and then a month from today, I will be collecting your work, more or less. I'll confirm those dates. Pero ya pronto llegamos al tiempo de colectar su trabajo. So just kind of be aware of that. Make sure you turn in your assignments so that way you're best prepared when it comes time to turn it all in for publication. So gracias a ustedes. Que se la pasen bien. I hope you have a wonderful week. Stay cool, stay healthy, stay safe. And we'll see y'all soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Gracias.
Bye, everyone.
I can see Karen.